over to Shanika for our speaker panel.
Hello, everyone. I don't even know if this is working. No, hello, everyone. Can you hear me? There, perfect. So I hope you all enjoyed your lunch, and I hope you're enjoying the conference thus far. We are going to get started with the entrepreneurship speakers series, speaker panel. I am Shanika Turner. I am an assistant professor here at Georgia Highlands in the business administration. So this panel is comprised of mostly entrepreneurs and leaders who were a part of our entrepreneurship speaker series. So I am completely honored and so ready for you guys to be able to finally see them in person instead of being on Zoom. So I'm going to introduce them. We're going to have a nice panel discussion, and then I'll actually open it up for questions for students to ask. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. She is a CEO, a speaker, and an author. Please welcome Casandra Austin-McDonald. She is a director of community health, also leading equity, diversity, and inclusion work for Memorial Health System. Please welcome Becky Gabany. He is the owner of the first Chick-fil-A in Brooklyn, New York, across from the Barclays Center. Please welcome Brandon Hurst. He is a master tailor and an entrepreneur. Please welcome Ulysses. He is an actor, singer, and entrepreneur. You probably recognize the voice. He was the singing voice of Simba from Lion King, and just recently on the hit show, The Chi. Please welcome Jason Weaver. He is a writer, creator, and entrepreneur. Please welcome Jay Carter. He is a television and film producer. Please welcome JaBarr Lasley. And last but not least, she is a director of the Atlanta Police Department Crime Lab and an entrepreneur. Please welcome Candace Walker. Okay, so we just want to have some conversations with you all. Finally, we get to see you all in person after a year of the speaker series and seeing you all in Zoom. It's just more than amazing to see your faces, and actually for the students to actually see you one-on-one. I mean, this is like an amazing opportunity. So I'm just going to jump in there and get started. And the first question, I'm just going to open it up for everyone. How do you define leadership in your career? How do you define leadership?
Well, for me, I define it by opening myself up for growth and understanding that I am everything around me is a work in progress. So I can only lead when I'm learning, if that makes sense to people. So I define it by a learning process, a work in progress. And that's how I treat my staff. When I'm working on projects, when I'm developing stuff, I'm constantly open to people and brainstorming. Because I don't know everything. I don't begin to act like I know everything. I have a session where I have people come in and I really am open to brainstorming so we can come up with the best possible concepts moving forward.
Anyone want to?
I love what you just said about always learning. And to me, leadership is kind of both the ability to be humble and also confident. So I'm going to use my confidence to lead the way for others to come alongside with me. And I'm going to be humble in that I'm going to make mistakes as well, that I'm human, and empowering others to be able to do both, I think is an important part of leadership.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll take a stab at it.
Please.
So I think for me, leadership is actually a permission that
is given to you by the people who ultimately want to follow you. And so in order to kind of garner more of that permission, it starts with how do you lead yourself, right? As humans, we're naturally attracted to like a certain level of discipline and character. And so in my mindset, those things afford you the permission. It's not something that you come in and you take, if you will, but it's about serving others. So it's not about leadership.
So to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think that inclusion is very important. I can't lead unless I include the people that I need to. So yeah, I think inclusion is very important.
Well, everyone here is like, you know, a businessman, businesswoman. With me being an actor, creative person, my way of leading is through the images that I display through the work that I do. Making sure that, especially as it relates to stories dealing with the Black community, Black males in particular, using that platform to put out the right representation and to thrust out a narrative that's not only honest and true and real, but at the same time respectful of what people go through in their lives and trying to tell real stories and bring people together through those stories. So that's what I try to do through my art.
And then quickly, I think Becky may have mentioned being a servant leader. Is that Becky? You said that? Yeah, so I mean, I look at it like I lead my team, like I lead my family. As a head of my household and for my family, you know, it's not about dictatorship. It's not about my ego. You know, when you're a true leader, you're willing to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of the people that you care about. And that's how I lead my team, is that, you know, if they get talked about, all their successes, their wins, then I don't even need to have my name mentioned because I take gratification off of what their recognition is.
And I guess I'll round it out since everybody spoke. Well, I feel like leadership obviously is everything that everyone said, but just to add on to that is that it's realizing that it's not about you at all. So if someone helps you get to where you were, whether or not you recognize it or whether or not you want to accept that. And so it's your obligation to help other people. So I feel like good leaders look behind them and make sure that other people are able to follow in the footsteps and really model the ways or the ways not to do things so that people can all rise.
I like what he said about being able to lead yourself, and with me being in the personal growth and development industry, integrity is huge for me. Being able to make sure that I am holding myself accountable to the messages and the information that I put out there and the clients that I work with, practicing what I teach. And so integrity is huge for me as a leader, making sure that I am being accountable and I'm being self-aware so that I'm constantly in a state of growth. But that also I am leading myself and leading by example. So.
Great answers. I have a question for you. As a self-love and mindset coach, you help others elevate their self-love. How would this be applied to entrepreneurs, and how has this philosophy helped you as an entrepreneur?
Self-love is a human experience. You know, even though like I've worked with men, but I primarily work with women, there's this concept that I like to teach about self-image. And self-image is the way that we perceive ourselves. And that entails any limiting beliefs that you have. It could entail self-confidence. And so if you have a limiting belief within yourself, it could actually negatively impact your performance in entrepreneurship. And a lot of times people don't realize that it's not about the doing, it's about the being. There's this saying that our excellence, our success is 20% in the action of what we do, and it's 80% in who we are. And so if you have a mindset that is counterproductive to your goal or to what you're trying to achieve, if you have a bottom line you're trying to hit or a sales goal or whatever that is, but you have negative thoughts that are counteracting that, that could actually slow down your performance. Self-sabotage can come in the way. And so that's why it's so important to have a healthy self-image and to be able to work on those things so that it doesn't hinder you from your performance and your growth in entrepreneurship.
Follow up with something
as she just said, I love how she talked about the 20 and 80% rule. I, as an entrepreneur and leadership, that's something that I teach in my organization every single day. So I always start with this question: what sank the Titanic? Anyone seen the movie Titanic? So I remember I was probably third grade watching it. And so it dawned on me when, as she talks about the 20%, 80%, it wasn't necessarily, using that analogy of the Titanic, it wasn't necessarily the tip of the iceberg that sank the Titanic. It was everything underneath that you could not see that actually sank the Titanic. And so when I think about leadership, 20% skill set building, like that's what people can see, right? But it's the 80% character, integrity, all of those things that require self-work and discipline in order to be able to lead. That's what people should really be attracted to in terms of the leadership aspect.
I have a question for you. I'm gonna ask everyone a question. How do you go about pushing change in your organization?
Thank you for that question. And for context here, I shared this with the group earlier. For my equity, diversity, inclusion work, I am working within a predominantly white, conservative Christian area. And so issues of diversity can largely go ignored by the majority groups of the community that we are within. So pushing change has been difficult in that context. But really what my approach often is one thing that you just said that made me think of this is authenticity. So you have to really come at your work in an authentic way. And we as a group talked earlier about, how often people's ideas are stolen from them and used or appropriated in other ways. And so one is bringing authenticity and really having passion and caring about the work or the mission or the whatever it is that you've chosen to get involved in. The second to me really is relationships and relationship building and seeing that kind of inherent value in each person and what is the relationship that we build with all of those folks that we come in to contact with and interact with. And then ultimately, I don't know if I referenced this in my panel, I think, but Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, talks about connectors. And so for me, change is always about connecting a lot of folks together and kind of being prepared so that when opportunities open up, we can see that moment and jump in to help affect real change. So I'm always one that's kind of looking for gaps in whether it's my work or school or a process that we're implementing. I'm always looking for what are those gaps and how do we jump in and fill those and how do we kind of build consensus without necessarily calling that out, initially, but how do we build that consensus around an issue and work through kind of that change management process.
Jay, I want to ask you because you produce films. How do you use your platform to push change in our community, and how do you do that?
So, yeah, I would say it's not rocket science. It's not something where I would have to put on a cape every morning, take my glasses off, and fly off to the sky. It's simple. It's about representation, and it's about people being able to see people on screen who experience the same things they experience. But then it's also about connecting the dots in the sense of, I look at like the Cosby Show, and the reason why for me the Cosby Show, and I know Cosby, so we're just talking about the show itself, okay? Not the actors in the show, okay? But what the show represented was a family that happened to be Black. It wasn't a Black family. And what it showed was that there are things that no matter our color, no matter our background, that we all have in common. We want security, we want to feel safe, we want our family and our loved ones to thrive, and we want to feel love amongst the people that we're closest with, right? And so, that's how I approach any film production I do. Is I'm not looking for stories because there are enough producers out there, and these stories need to be told. that tell quote unquote Black stories. I'm sure you can attest to that, Jason, like how many scripts you may get, and just like, they told that story already, you know, you can tell that again. But, you know, there's enough, you know, Black pain stories, you know, out there. And again, those stories need to be told, but the opportunity and the kind of the gap that I'm trying to fill is just telling human stories that happen to have Black people in them. And hopefully that'll bridge some gaps for people to realize that, you know, there's more that we have in common than we have as far as differences are concerned. So that's the niche that I try to provide.
Brandon, what do you say to your team to motivate them?
So much. I think for me is, she talked about authenticity, right? And so one of the things that I get to do every single day is I get to go into my organization, into my restaurant, and have direct impact and influence and relatability with my team members. Right now, I currently have over 130 team members that work for me. And to constantly motivate them, we center it around our vision and our mission. Our mission is to simply love, right? It's to lead great tasting food, world-class hospitality, offer stability for growth, exposure to new life experiences, value ourselves and each other, and embrace our core values of honesty, integrity, commitment, and pursuit of excellence. And so to motivate them, if I see a team member that comes in and they don't have a beautiful smile on their face, I say, hey, what's going on? Do you know that you're loved when you walk into our organization? And if I'm in the back of the house and they're making those delicious chicken sandwiches, I say, hey, did you make that with love? Right? It's about an atmosphere. It's about doing right with one another and helping those individuals win. And my team truly feel a sense that they're cared for, and you're not just coming in and working for a business, but you're coming in and working with a person. So it's about intentionality and being intentional about what you share with those individuals.
Just open for everyone, how do you build that team? Like, just in your own career, how do you build that team around you? You know, our students, we have a lot of entrepreneurial students that are starting out and they're starting their businesses and they're starting to build their teams. How do they go about doing that so that they have a strong team surrounding them?
I would first say it starts with you. What's your vision? I always say, if you did not have a dime to pay your team members, would they still come and work for you? And why? For me, it's about looking and hiring individuals, not necessarily for skill set. And keep in mind, skill set is very important, but there has to be vision alignment, and you have to hire for character, right? Does that align with your passion? Because you can bring individuals into your circle, your energy, your organization, and it just doesn't mix. It's like oil and water, right? And so for me, skills, I can teach you that, but we want to look for heart. I can't genuinely teach you to be a hospitable person. So we look for alignment in that aspect.
Can I layer on that? So in addition to finding someone who has the same passions, I think it's also important to really recognize what your weaknesses are and what your gaps are. Because I don't need 3 extroverts, you know, like, yeah, I can eat all day long. I need folks that can also execute. And it reminds me of, there's an anti-racism concept that they talk about in Crossroads anti-racism training, the difference between collaboration and competition. And so when you're coming from that collaborative perspective of, I'm not here to compete with you, I'm here to identify what are your strengths, what are my strengths, how do we pair these together to get the most effective outcome.
I'll also say, to piggyback on what you all said, and my experience prior to Freely TV and casting directing for Maverick movies was human resources. I was director of HR, so a lot of times you hear me say things that Becky, you're probably like, man, he sounds like an HR guy. But to kind of show that, like you mentioned, that you can teach people how to do things, and I think but that's dependent on, for me, the type of business that you're in, because Chick-fil-A, I mean, it's about the warmth, right? It's about the human connection that those Chick-fil-A employees make. And that's, to me, for me, that's what resonates, and why I go to Chick-fil-A, probably telling myself literally once a day. I'm ordering Chick-fil-A, not a doubt, like, I can show you receipts. And so, it's, the food is good, don't get me wrong, but the service is better, and that's what matters. But for me, because I'm in the tech space with Freely TV, I have to build my team according to what I need and not necessarily what I want. Because I have to have people with certain skills walking in the door. And I may want to have somebody who can, like I was telling the group that I was with earlier this morning for the breakout, one of the first mistakes I made, I was like, you know what? I need Will Packer. That's who I need. I need Will Packer on my team. And that's what I wanted, but that's not what I needed, because I wasn't ready for Will Packer, right? I needed somebody to help me build an infrastructure, build it up and scale it to where now we're at a point where I can call Will Packer and I won't get laughed at, right? So again, you have, depending on the business, sometimes you do have to build by what you need as opposed to what you.
Carl, I want to know, what motivated you to pursue your passion? Because you didn't start off in the industry that you are now, in tailoring. You didn't start off there.
Right.
So what motivated you to actually take that leap and go into what you really love?
It's funny because it seemed like everything that I did, I failed at or was failed at. Very spiritual. I believe in God, and I just know God gives each one of us gifts, And all my life, I knew what I was gifted at. I started off in elementary school making portraits, drawing portraits and murals for schools, and then I got away from that because I wanted to play sports. I played sports, thought that I was going to go to the major leagues, messed up my shoulder, and then I said, I'm good at math and science, so let me become a doctor. I didn't fail at it, but I didn't enjoy it because I had to go on some rotations when I went to a minority medical education program at the University Medical School, and the neonatal care unit, pediatric unit, and would see babies, dying, and things of that sort. And I was like, this is, and that's when I was pushed back to the arts, which I always loved. And that's kind of where God had always been tugging at my heart. Something that I always knew that I was gifted at. And I just started to excel at it. I didn't go to school for it, but it was something that God just said, you know what, you're talented at this. And this is what is going to give you success, but also do your hard work.
You didn't know me and Carl went to high school together. So
I played in the marching band.
I didn't see each other. So I always talk to the students about, who influences you. I think that makes a really big difference on how you move forward with your business. And Jason, I know that your mom was a big influencer in your career. How did she influence your career as an actor?
My mother influenced me a great deal, including a ton of other women who have, guided me throughout the course of my career. My mother, her background, she's still here with us, by the way, too. I don't see like she's coming. But my mother's background was insane. She was a background vocalist for like Aretha Franklin many years ago. She was on the original Give Him Something He Can Feel with Aretha on the Sparkle soundtrack. Her and my aunts. After that, my aunts and my mother worked with people like Hurst, Tyrone Davis, and a lot of legendary acts from the 70s and the 80s, which essentially through those relationships that they had working in the business all those years, that's how me and my cousins were able to come up either through the film industry, which was my lane, and my cousins who are in the music industry produced some of like the biggest records in the past, I'd probably say 20 to 25 years. So all of us came up under just, really strong women that, kicked open doors, not only, kicked open doors, but educated us and taught us, about the business, also about ourselves, how to conduct ourselves, set etiquette, professionalism, things like that. Those were things that my mother instilled in me very early on, even when I began my career at 5 years old. And then much later on, I had the honor and the pleasure of, working with other amazing women like Suzanne DePaz, Suzanne Costa, like most of my career has been guided by women, Black women too, on top of that. But most of my successes come from women knocking down doors for me. So my mother has been a major factor in my life and in my career, for sure.
Is she, I did read how, she helped you make the deal in Lion King about, taking, not taking multiple payments, but taking like the lump sum. Can you talk about that? Like, how did she, like, was it from her background that she was able to know that? Because not everyone know that.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. For anybody out there who may not be familiar with this story or my background, I was blessed to be the singing voice of young Simba in the original Lion King, the animated film. And I was about 12 years old, 12 or 13 years old, when Sir Elwin recruited me to do that after performing in the Jackson's miniseries of Michael Jackson. So during the negotiation process of us, working out the deal with Disney, what they initially offered was just a lump sum of like $2 million just to take as just a straight payout that would consist of no kind of like residual income or anything like that, which essentially for artists and people involved in intellectual properties and stuff like that. That's our lifeblood. That's how we continue to make money and thrive and take care of our families. It's not only from the initial work that's done, but also through whatever residual payout that's generated through the work that was done. So with my mother, understanding contracts in the music industry and essentially what keeps artists going, especially after her watching so many artists throughout the time that she was actively working in the industry, kind of, losing out on big deals, just not, knowing their value, so to speak, in the marketplace and knowing how to negotiate terms that ultimately will, benefit them in the long run. With her having that knowledge, when my time came, when Disney first initially presented that deal, a lot of people probably would have jumped at the chance immediately just to take, that one lump sum, payout of $2 million. But my mother was able to kind of see way down the line, because this is before, people were even talking about Lion King. We all know Lion King now for what it is. But back then when we were working on it, we really didn't have any idea as to how successful it would be, especially as related to the music and in particular the songs that I was directly associated with. So no, my mother was smart enough to just kind of see ahead, and she told me, she said, listen, this is what we're gonna do. This is how business is done. This is how you should continue to conduct business even as you get older, and especially understanding and knowing your worth as a performer is the way it should be done. And so, what was instilled in me then, I still practice to this day. And thank God, the Lion King is a gift that constantly keeps on giving. So, shout out to my mom.
In a way, she was a mentor.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you all, how important is it to have a mentor during your career? It's a lifeline.
Yeah.
It's a lifeline.
During my breakout session, and for those who come to the next one, I love sharing this story because it shows the resiliency on my part, but the importance of having mentorship. And in 2016, after I launched my blog, I was getting ready to publish my book, and I was battling with a lot of fear and imposter syndrome and all that, but I also had a mentor. And my home was broken into, and everything of value was taken, my laptop included. And I remember in that moment, I was afraid when I was driving home from work after I got the call that, oh my God, my manuscript, like what happened to it? That's all I cared about. I didn't care about anything of value. All I cared about is where is my manuscript? And luckily the flash drives were there, so I was able to, you know, continue to move forward and whatnot. But in that moment, what part of the anchor I had was mentorship. I had someone who believed in me. I had someone who was teaching me how to break into that industry. I had someone who was keeping me encouraged and motivated and giving me guidance when I didn't know what the heck I was doing and battling with fear and the unknown and doubt. So mentorship is like a lifeline, especially when you're always on this path of learning and growing. You need someone there who can see your blind spots, and that's what mentorship has always been for me. Someone who can see my blind spots, but also someone who is where I aspire to be, and they can kind of show me the way, if you will.
Anyone else want to hear?
I was gonna add, have a mentor helps me focus. It helps me stay on the path. And with me, it helps me take those things that I think are really big, really major, which at the moment I might be in that space of thinking this is catastrophic, oh my God, what's happening? And I have a mentor that can say, you know what, I hear what you're saying, but let's just strip it down. And so you can see that it's not as big as you think it is, and let's work through it. And sometimes that, well, not sometimes, all the time when I need that, it is so profound for me because we get in our own heads sometimes, especially as creators. And a lot of times we really beat ourselves up and we take it to another level, and having someone there that understands our walk, but at the same time understands where we're going and we might not be able to see it ourselves is essential to helping me stay grounded, helping me stay focused, and helping me keep my eye on the prize.
Jay, I have a question for you. So you created numerous plays and scripts. Where do you think your creativity comes from? I mean, you do so many plays and you just finished a movie. Like, where do these ideas come from? This creativity come from?
You know, I think I subscribe to the saying that, you know, the magic never happens. The magic never happens in your comfort zone. It always happens outside of your comfort zone. And so, you know, the lower hanging fruit when you're creating projects that you're writing yourself or you're producing, you know, the easiest thing to do is just to look at what's on TV already, or what's in the theaters already, on the streaming platforms already, and be like, okay, you know, I'm gonna duplicate that, that's what's hot right now. And there's an element to that where you have to, you know, paint by numbers a little bit, because you want to get yourself picked up and sold, right? So there's a little bit of that you have to kind of infuse into it. But the majority of kind of where I get my inspiration from is like, okay, you know, I see what's out there now. How can I create something different that resonates, you know? And so like with the movie we just filmed, Boxed In, with Clifton Powell and Regina Carter, we looked at an opportunity for, well, Clifton Powell, and you know you're familiar with Clifton, he plays the same dude, the shady businessman, the shady good dude all the time, right? So it's like, you know what, let's call Clifton, and we want him to play a farmer and grandfather. Man, he jumped up on an opportunity so fast because it gave him the chance to do something different and spread his wings differently. You know, we looked at Regina Carter and said, you know, she went from, okay, that's Lil Wayne's daughter and Toya's daughter to now she's her own social media influencer, but she wanted to break into acting. And so we presented a value proposition to her and said, you know, we can go out and we can get all these other actors that will do it, but it'll be kind of just like something they just do for the paycheck, right? Or we can try to get some actors that are willing to do it for a little bit less because we have a lower budget, but because of the value propositions, they were able to kind of resonate with them and kind of leverage that they say, okay, well now I'm passionate about this project, you know, because this opportunity, no one else is giving me this opportunity to be in this light. So now it's a passion for me, so I'm going to put forth even more effort. So what I try to do when I'm looking at different things to kind of pour into is just really look at, you know, what's the value proposition for this project to make it a little bit different and to attract different talent, they'll actually put their heart into it as opposed to just say, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then after it's done, I'm not gonna think about it anymore. I mean, you go to Renee's page and she has like 6 million followers and she's still talking about her experience at Boxing, because it meant that much to her. And that's a win for us. So yeah, I try to figure out how do you go right and then how do you make a left, and still be able to keep your audience.
I love that you said sitting in, being uncomfortable. Can anyone else on the panel speak to that? Like, what is the importance of sitting in that space of being uncomfortable?
I really think, as he said, I really think that there are a lot of great things that come out. I know a couple years ago I was working on Black Panther, and I was asked to make all the clothing for Chadwick Boseman, and there were a million ways that I could have doubted myself and said I wasn't capable. But when I really sat there and sat in that uncomfortability, that is where I started to find out my true skill set, things that I was truly capable of. I think it's in the times that we are challenged that we actually find out exactly who we are, and I think sometimes you can't always take the easy way out, if you know that this is where you're supposed to be and that you know that this is what you want for your life, it's those times of adversity that you really grow.
And if I can jump in on this, as soon as you said that, I was like, yes. So literally slide 2 of my presentation for the breakout session is about the comfort zone, the learning zone, and the panic zone. And how to really be successful, we want to stay within that learning zone, that stretch zone, that uncomfortable zone. We want to get very comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And so I love that you pulled that up. I also love the thread that I hope everyone's catching here is that across industries, so many of these truths help and have helped all of us navigate all of these many different situations. And I certainly learned from that from my mentors. So I love that question as well. And I also think we should probably give a round of applause to Black women because they have mentored me tremendously. And I appreciate you pulling that up. And you've done a great job. Yeah, all of these are so important. I'm loving how they have impacted kind of all of our different sectors in different ways.
JaBarr.
Yeah, my turn to find out.
Yes, your turn. Your documentary, Cosplay Your Way, recently won a Telly Award.
Hey.
Inspired that creation of the documentary.
Oh my God, so I am a cosplay artist, and I don't know if you guys know about cosplay, so I love it. I love dressing up. Halloween was not enough. So I had to come in costume. So when I started cosplaying, it was a wonderful thing because I thought I found my people. I'm like, oh my God, these people are into cosplay. We're all nerds. I'm in heaven. But I started going to cons, and after 2 years, I started seeing some dissension. I started seeing discrimination. I started seeing that people were like, oh, you're Black, Gabby, you're Black, Robin. And I was like, what's happening here? So instead of just complaining about it, which I did, but I also said I wanted to be about it. So I decided to create a company called Cosplay Your Way, which I made sure people of color are seen and appreciated in cosplay. From that, I created an annual photo shoot opportunity where I shoot cosplayers every year. I have a party, I bring like 6 or 7 photographers. I invite cosplayers, both novice and experts to that. And then we do a theme and I release pictures in February for Black History Month. Each day with all the cosplayers. So from that, I was like, I want to do more. I need to do more, right? So I was like, I'm in television and film. I do this for what's wrong with me? I'm working on other people's projects. Let me work on something for me. And what do I have a passion for right now? That was cosplay. And again, there was no one doing a POC spotlighted cosplay. feature of any kind. And I'm gonna say this, I'm happy, but I'm also ashamed that I was able to come up with a company called Cosplay Your Way so late in the game. And that I am the first to do a POC spotlight cosplay documentary so late in the game. I'm glad it can be me, but I'm ashamed that it is me. Why wasn't it done before? So what happened, I decided to put this documentary together. I was like, hey, let me make it happen. I talked to some people that were like, you know what, if you put it together with Eric, talked to Freely, they was like, hey, we'll put it out. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do this, and I made it happen. I brought in all the cosplay photographers and everything to put it together. But what made me really excited about that documentary is not only did I get to spotlight people of color doing cosplay, I got to show how the industry and the fandom birth other lucrative careers, like Walter Dean, he's an audience, working with Marvel Studios to recreate Dora Milaje, working for other TV stations, creating costumes, photographers, makeup artists. It was just the holy grail for me to be able to push all that out. And as you said, it won 2 Tony Awards. It was in the Cannes Film Festival. It's in Comic-Con Africa. I'm international, y'all. We just did New York Comic-Con. We're going to LA Comic-Con. It was at BlurCon. I'm like just so enamored of what has happened with that. So thank you for asking that question. You're welcome. Yeah.
I got it. I got it. Candace, I have a question for you. So, as the director of the Atlanta Police Department Crime Lab and owner of the library, how do you handle the demands of both of those completely different careers?
It's actually not that hard. And I'm not saying that, to be all cocky, but because they're totally different, they give me balance. And so balance is like extremely important for anyone. And being over the crime lab, and if you watch the news, we're pretty busy. And then owning the library, wine and book bar, that's new. We just hit our 2-month open mark, October 12th. So the creative part of me, which I had suppressed for so long because I'm like, you're good at science, this is what you do, you're passionate about justice, forensics is your thing. And I always used to tell myself I wasn't creative. And so I was blocking a part of me, not realizing that being a scientist is pretty creative in and of itself. In addition to, I just was comparing myself to my friends who like make music and draw and all the things that you would traditionally see as a creative. And so doing both of those actually helped me to have a better life, because just doing one of them, I think I would probably just go full force and would not be able to have enough balance. But both of them have really helped me learn a lot about myself and just make sure that I'm not running around forever like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah, the library, Stone Mountain.
Yes, please come.
Yes.
The library, wine and book bar,
Yes.
Stone Mountain Village, 917 Main Street.
So, we have in the audience a lot of entrepreneur students, and I want to know, what skill or characteristic do you think is important to have as an entrepreneur? And this is open to
Guts.
guts.
You gotta have guts, because there's gonna be days where you're gonna wanna throw in the towel. There's gonna be days where you wanna quit. There's gonna be days where you're gonna feel like, why am I doing this? There's gonna be days where you're not seeing the results and you're doing all the things and it's still not happening, and it's gonna be gut work. And that's what gets you to the other side, is gutting it out, grinding it out, trusting the process, believing in yourself, and knowing that over time, the compound effect of your consistent efforts and action will kick in and you will see the result. But you can't give up, you can't quit, you just gotta gut it out.
And in addition to guts, a great support system, because none of us is doing this alone. We have people that are, well, I don't know, I have people that come and work in the wine bar for free. I try to give them bottles of wine, my friends, and they're like, no, it's fine. Because they know that when I am able to, I'm gonna take care of them. So a really good support system for me, a strong prayer life, in addition to, like she said, guts, and just faith and knowing that why you're doing something. So if you're doing it just for the money, you probably are not gonna be successful just off the top. But if you're doing it because it really is your passion, you know it's your why, it's your purpose, and you doing it is ultimately gonna bless other people, then you will keep going.
Absolutely. I was gonna add, be a sponge, be a complete and utter sponge of everything around you, everyone around you. Learn all the time, because when you are trying to start a business, you don't know exactly what's happening, and you can't necessarily compare apples to apples with somebody in your vicinity, because it's going to be different for you. You're going to hit other obstacles that other people didn't do, or you're going to handle them differently. So be okay with failing, be okay with falling, but know that you have to have that self-motivation to get back up and keep running. And I don't even want to talk to somebody who hasn't failed at some things, because I don't think that person can have the conversation or resonate or talk to me about success if they haven't fallen. So if you come to me and you say everything worked out squeaky clean for you all the time, I'm a little bored already. You haven't failed. In my opinion, maybe you have, but I don't think so.
Let me tell y'all what I just heard and what I love about what everyone on the panel just shared. Notice how you didn't hear someone say, oh, I had a well put together business plan, and oh, I had a marketing plan, and it was all tied up neatly in a nice bow, and I had this banker in this pocket. Everything, every single thing that they just talked about is what I call adversity quotient. Think about that. What is your ability to be able to persevere, and your passion? I heard purpose, I heard your why, I heard grit, determination. All of those things are a melting pot for what we call the keys to success. The other things, yes, they are important, but think about your level of willpower to get up and keep going, your support system. All of those things matter when you try to sit in that seat of entrepreneurship, because it is so key and so crucial to the level of success that you define for yourself. I think that's so important as well. We oftentimes get caught up in this comparison syndrome of, oh, well, this person did this person did that. What does success look like for you, and how do you define that? That has to be important.
Greatest lesson you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey? Just like, what is the greatest thing you take away that you have from your journey?
I would say for me, it's listen to the people, and you first listen to yourself. That's how you come up with a vision. But then listen to the people and be willing to redirect or pivot depending on what people are giving. There's a entrepreneurial book out there called I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, this guy named Eric, right? He has this model he calls the MVP. That's the minimal viable products. And when you're an entrepreneur, you can tweak your product 1,000,000 times over and be like, it's gotta be perfect, like, because I gotta give people perfection. And then you go and you put it out there after, wasting 2 years and find that what you were tweaking, the public didn't even care about, so you gotta get the people what they want. I mean, I gotta use Chick-fil-A as an example because that is my spirit animal. I mean, sometimes I'll go or I'll send my wife to Chick-fil-A, and then I'll be like, why does Sean not mind, pulling into that line of Chick-fil-A when the line is wrapped around the building, right? And it's because, again, value propositions is about, when people get into that long ass line of Chick-fil-A, why are they going in? Is it the food? Or is it the service? Is it the fact that they know that even though that line is long, they have a system in place that's going to get you moving, to where you don't feel like you're stagnant. So it's about, you know, what resonates with people. For freely TV for me, and even for the casting, it's about, I've got to understand that, you know, the biggest lesson I learned was I've got to realize where the gap is. Like, where is the gap and how can I fill that gap? You know, I don't want to be another Pluto TV or a Zumo TV because there's a Pluto and a Zumo and they're extremely successful. So where's the gap and where's the need? And what I found is if you can try to figure out where that need is, and then you can leverage it and exploit it. And the need I identified was, you know, there was not an app like a TV streaming app that told African American stories in the form of like cable television and satellite television, like that model. Once I realized what that gap was, you can actually jump in the gap and fill it. But you can't do that if you get so pigeonholed into what your one idea is going to be. You got to be willing to pivot and adjust according to what the people want.
One of the most valuable lessons that I've learned, I also own a showroom in Buckhead where I make custom suits and shoes and shirts for men and women. And one of the things that I've learned is, I was sitting down and I was thinking, like, why do people really come to me to get their suits and stuff like that? And I was like, there's a million custom clothiers, there's a million, retail shops. And I said, people really come to me because they enjoy me. They like my character. They like the service that I provide. I make them feel like no one else is, like I'm dealing with only them. So when you really provide a service for someone, just think about the customer service you're giving them, how you're making them feel when they come to you for what they're spending their money for. You give them a good service, but you also want to give them, give them the best part of it.
I was going to add that you can't be a monopoly. So what I learned in my life and in my career, so when I was younger, I had a TV show and I was just doing all these great things. And I'm like, I'm great, they love me, I'm going to be the biggest, this, that. And I quickly crashed and burned after that. So I learned as I was growing, because I did music, I had my TV show, I was doing all these things, that you can't just be a monopoly. You need people. You constantly need to grow, as I keep saying, you need to learn. And then I'm authentic. So I'm the same person here as I am with you and your parents, as I am with you at your party, as I am at church. I'm the same person. So I give people the authentic me so they can make informed decisions. And I'm not the flavor for you. You find out as soon as possible so we can go ahead and ixnay that and move on to the next thing. And I take pride in that because I want you to waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time. And I want you around, I don't need you. And I feel better when I want people in my life and I need them.
Two things that I hope that you, as the audience, take away as what I'm hearing from our journey as entrepreneurs in our various backgrounds. First one, take the risk, right? I was reading this book by Dr. Ben Carson, and what he talked about in that, the book is actually called Taking the Risk. And the essence that profoundly changed my trajectory and where I was headed, he said something, I'm paraphrasing here, he said, oftentimes when we're assessing risk, we think about what's the worst that can happen versus what's the best that can happen. And so you don't leave here with anything else today, understand that you have to take the risk. And the second thing that I would tell you, bet on you. Bet on you. You gotta get up every single day, look yourself in the mirror and say, I bet on you. You coming here today, listening to us and taking these nuggets away, you're betting on you. Making that investment in you is going to be so crucial because the vision lives with you. So take the risk and bet on you.
I caught the nugget joke.
And I think I'll just add, in addition to what he was saying, as you're betting on you and the vision has been implanted in your spirit and the idea of what you want to do, Yes, it has been given to you, but sometimes it's given to you to complete in a certain time frame, because you being in a specific position will help somebody else in where they need to be. And so realizing that the entrepreneurship journey is really not about you, it's really about like the timing that you're completing this thing, and then the blessing that you can be to somebody else that they need. So like the idea may have started with you, but I don't know if anybody else has had an idea, like, I really want to do this, and just waited years and years, and then you look up and you see the idea. You're like, well, I had that idea. Well, it was yours, but then you procrastinated and you came up with all the excuses and you doubted yourself. And so God gave it to somebody else, or whoever your person is, gave it to somebody else. And they were able to bless the person that you were supposed to bless. So I feel like I've learned in entrepreneurship is like, yes, I'm afraid a lot of times and being uncomfortable in things, but it's not about me. And I do things when I'm supposed to do them and try not to procrastinate as much as possible, because I'm a procrastinator. Because somebody else is waiting on me to finish that part. And that allows me to keep going. So that's what I've learned. Just do it when you feel it, when you can, and the things will fall into place how they're supposed to.
To be completely honest with you, I agree with like everything everybody said. I honestly don't think there's anything more that I need to add with that, because all of these things that, these panelists have mentioned are things that I've applied to my journey. Just in particular, just for me to like just drive and like, understanding of the importance of getting back up after falling, a few times. I mean, in my career, we get film and television, and you get told no more than yes all the time. There's a lot more rejection and acceptance. And, you do have to look in the mirror those days and say, yo, I bet on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna conquer this. I'm gonna make a way. I'm gonna win. It's that kind of drive and that kind of spirit that's gonna really carry you over the finish line. And I'll probably say too, this becomes such a cliche, phrase now when people say it, they're like, enjoy the journey. Well, I can honestly tell you guys, man, like, enjoy the journey, man. You know what I'm saying? Because once you get to the destination or that victory point, there's gonna be something else that you're gonna strive to get, you know what I'm saying, or a goal to reach. So I think the one thing for me personally that I've learned to do as of recently, I'll probably say the past 15 years, is really enjoying the journey. Because along the way, I've met some great people. I've learned some great life lessons, not only that benefited me like professionally, but also personally. And it's because I'm taking that time to like, when in the room, when something's going on, to just enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Because what's ultimately meant for you, you're gonna get, it's already written. And I think all you have to do is just, I think the universe responds to that is your enthusiasm, your willingness to keep going and enjoying yourself as you're going along. And then before you know it, all those things that, you hope to fall in place into your life, they will. I can honestly tell you that that's not just like a self-help book thing or just something cool to say. That really is how the world and how the universe works. So that's the one thing I can share.
Carl, I have a very serious question. We all want to know this question. Since you've worked for both sides, which do you prefer? Marvel or DC?
Let him work that.
Well, I've enjoyed it both.
That's right.
But I don't know, there's something about Marvel that is just, I love the people. Working with Chadwick was amazing, and I've learned a lot more working with Marvel. You spoke about Black women that could change our lives. Ruth Carter, that was a very pivotal point in my life. And she pulled out some different skills and strengths within me that I didn't even know I had. So I would have to say Marvel for that.
It's recorded, everyone. So, before, we're gonna open up the floor for questions in just a second. So I just had questions, my personal actual questions. That's why I actually talked to Marvel. And Jason, I want to ask you a question. As a former band member, you were in Drumline.
Yeah.
I want to know, how did you prepare for that role? Because you played an instrument, you played bass drums. Did you really have to like learn this stuff? I really want to know.
No, we really had to learn. We were in band camp maybe like 2 months prior to shooting. But even before then, like in middle school, I was in a band. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm from the Midwest. And I didn't really have a lot of exposure growing up to the HBCU experience. I was familiar with it from having relatives that lived in the South, but I didn't understand like the tradition and the pageantry and the beauty of it all. Just how it's, all presented, not only, just academically, but culturally and what it represents. So when we first started doing Drumline, I think, the first thing we received was like a history lesson from people that, were in these HBCU bands and just letting us know what their personal history is, and their pride, their personal pride for whatever band that they were involved with, or whatever instrument that they played. And I think the more that I was able to have conversations with those real people who were sharing their personal stories with me, that really helped me as an actor, you know what I'm saying, to really embrace it and really get involved and understand the responsibility that we had to really, tell this beautiful story and represent HBCU culture and lifestyle in an authentic way, in a respectful way, in a cool way. And I think it did really well. I think because of that energy that we all collectively poured into it, it was able to resonate the way that it did, not only within our immediate community, but even outside of our community, what they would call the mainstream audience, if you will. They was able to really resonate and bring people into the fold of what the HBCU experience is about. So very proud and honored to be a part of that film for sure.
I was a part of that film as well.
Oh,
Now, I may have been an extra in the stand.
okay. But you were there with us in the company. All right. Well, it's good to reconnect with a fellow cast member. That's beautiful.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It was a lot of hard work.
Let me say real quick, I mean, I'm a teacher on a little bit, like, you don't, I don't think people realize the enormity of like what Jason's done in his career. Like, a lot of times you kind of go through life, you don't really look at the forest, you kind of just look at each individual tree, but, to go from, and we're talking about two very different institutions for very different reasons, but to go from Lion King to a Drumline, and the way it impacts culture in two very different ways, and to say that you were a part of both. I mean, you look at the star power in Lion King, you look at the star power in Drumline with Zoe Saldana, and Nick Cannon. It's just really a testament to the longevity that you've had, because those are two very significant entities for mainstream culture and African American culture from two very different reasons. So we gotta give them a shout out.
One last question, keep you on the hot seat before I open up the floor for students. When is ATL 2 coming out?
I didn't even think about ATL.
We'll see.
We seen the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that we shot that trailer maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when we were just all out in Los Angeles. And it was really done to make the studio see that there was an audience that exists that would support this film, and not to go down this rabbit hole, but in the past, especially when it comes to the telling of our stories, African Americans and our culture, you get met with some resistance a lot of times from some of these studio executives that will say, well, that will only appeal to a domestic audience and it won't do well in the foreign market. And you meet that kind of resistance from time to time, even with ATL being as, culturally significant as it is, and, people love to watch it. You'd be surprised the kind of rebuttals and the answers that you get when you bring these kind of ideas to movie studios. And so what we did was just took the initiative to come together and say, yo, man, let's shoot this, let's put this out. We think it's gonna go viral. And when it does, we'll be able to show that there's an audience there that, you know, it's not lying dormant, but it's really active and it's waiting for it. So those are some of the things, it's almost kind of goes to the entrepreneur spirit, if you will, too, kind of. Yeah, you gotta create your own opportunities and like, and really kick down some doors and do things that you normally wouldn't do. Harkening back to what you guys were saying earlier, stepping outside of your comfort zone. When we did that trailer together, we knew we didn't have the support of the studio, but we knew that we had the support of the people. And so that gave us the energy and the faith and the strength to go, all right, we're gonna do something. You know, it didn't work out there, but as far as, because I'm just a hired gun with that production. I have nothing to do with the executive end of it. I do believe that the deal is being negotiated now. Will Smith, I think, is really at the forefront of that and trying to help us push it forward. He was one of our original executive producers. So I think him and Dallas Austin are now talking to the studio, and hopefully it will happen because the people want it. So, yeah, thank you for asking that question. So be on the lookout for ATL too.
Some questions from anyone?
Don't be shy. Show out there.
Hello, my name is
Hello.
Imani Fisher. I am a founder and owner of Sweet Temptations by Imani. My question to you all is, me being 24 years old and the mother to a 4-year-old son who is, has a very weak immune system, so he's in and out of the hospital all the time. And going to school and working full time. How do you all balance your personal lives and your work lives when starting up your businesses?
She was in my breakout session too. I was a single mom. As you know, I shared, I was 19 when I got pregnant with my son, who's now a student at UCS, so got to the other side. But for me, support. I really lean very heavily on people that I trusted in my life. And I surrounded myself with those people. And it just seemed like we talked about the vision I had, and the more that I was in pursuit of it, the more it was like, I'm a guy, girl too, the more it seemed like God was putting people into my life that was like, I believe in you. I used to take my son to class with me in college, and he would just sleep, and professors were okay with it. And then when it got to the point of, you know, writing my book and all the other things I've done, I leaned heavily on the support system that I have. And so the first thing I would say is have that support system. I used any resource that was available to me. I relied very heavily on support in my family, my friends, whatever community supports I could find. Even to stay active and healthy, you know, the gym that I went to had a daycare, anything that supported my values, my vision, what I was creating, I relied on that. And then really just know that whatever you're experiencing right now won't last. And that was something I always had to tell myself. This too shall pass. It's something I have said to myself over and over again during some of the most challenging times of my life. And I've always asked myself during challenging times, what can I learn from this? How is this going to make me better later? How can I turn this into a lesson for my son later? And so I've always tried to keep my mindset in that space, and it helped me to not lay so much into, you know, woe is me, I'm going through all of this, it sucks, it doesn't feel good, and start leaning into how can this be a lesson? How can I make this into a nugget for my son? How can I, and I just kept pushing my mind to reach that state. And what happens is when your mindset starts to shift, your actions start to change, and then your outcomes change.
I wanted to add one of the most important things. I got a big mouth. I wanted to add one of the most important things that I learned from myself is to schedule time for me. I sense your energy, and I can tell you like taking care of everything, everybody around you, and that's admirable. That's wonderful, and you sound like me. So schedule some time for you. And, if you have to put it in the calendar, whatever you have to do, that's so paramount for you to regenerate, for you to keep going, because you're the one that's fueling the things around you. And if you're depleted, if you're damaged, you're not gonna be able to do what you need to do for all these other things to grow around you so wonderfully. So please, schedule time for you, shut down at 30 minutes, an hour. I know it can't be a lot of time because I know how you are. I know how we are. I'm feeling like I know you're kids here. But just shut yourself down. Just pick some time. Start with 15 minutes. Just do you because it's essential.
So I can tell that your question has struck a nerve, because all of us are like. So, one tool that I would like to suggest is literally plotting out things that you do and that you're asked to do on a matrix. So you make kind of a 4-quadrant matrix of impact, and intensity of time you have to devote to it, and focus on the things in the quadrant that are, a lower amount of time with a high impact first. And the things that take a lot of time and are low impact, just say no to them. And we all feel a lot of pressure, a lot of times to say yes to everything and carry it all. And you are one person and you cannot do everything. So I want to validate also that the feelings you're feeling are real and they're hard and you're in a lot of tough positions. So it's okay to say no.
And I just want to add, and I'm not contradicting her, I feel like you can do everything, you just can't do everything at the same time. And so like my thought process is short-term sacrifice for a long-term goal. And if you really kind of plot it out by points, just say, okay, I can make it to this. One step is better than 0 steps. So you might not be going as fast or making as much progress as you think you should be making with all of the things you have going on, but just be consistent. Like keep going, small steps, and like everything else that everybody said, like you'll make it.
And I just wanted to say one more thing. No matter what your business is, it's needed. We need it. So just know that it's gonna be successful before you even get started. And knowing that consistency is huge. So you can set aside an hour a week, whenever when your child is asleep, I don't know. But just stay consistent and do something towards it every week, and before you know it, people are gonna be coming to you because they love your ideas.
Do you have any other questions?
Don't be shy, guys. Right here. Open books.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Shannon. Before I ask my question, I really appreciate you guys kind of talking. I also really appreciate the range you guys have as far as advice, opinions, and the different perspectives you're answering the question. Just to hear so many different viewpoints all in that. So thank you for that. But my question is, I know you guys talk about cooking outdoors and being motivated and self-confident and all of those highs in your life. Everybody has those low days and those low points as well. How have y'all personally and professionally dealt with those moments, and what has consistently helped you overcome those times in your life, and what any examples you guys have?
That's great. If I could just answer that real quick, I can tell you like of a personal story that I just went through recently. So I'm on this show right now that I'm blessed to be a part of called The Shot, right? And it comes on Showtime, by the way, if you haven't seen it, check it. Anyway, I just came on this season for season 4, but unbeknownst to a lot of people, I've been involved basically with the show on the road for the past 6 years, even when it was still in pilot stage. I was cast in the original pilot as one of the characters, Ron, in the show. And so I was in Los Angeles, moved back home to Chicago, shot this pilot. I'm thinking this is gonna be one of those kind of breakout roles for me as an actor that would allow me to, display some range. And so I'm thinking I'm on a trajectory, towards success in that regard at that particular time. Unfortunately, after waiting 3 to 4 months to hear back from the network as to whether we got picked up or not, the first thing my agent tells me is, he said, well, I got great news and I got absolutely horrible news. So okay, well, give me the horrible news first. He's like, well, you're not going on with The Shot, but the show has definitely been picked up and it looks like the network is gonna get behind it. So I'll never forget, I was sitting at this sports bar, I was looking at a college game, just the wind just knocked out my sails. It was something that I was really looking forward to as an actor at that particular time. And I'll never forget, after processing it for the past like maybe 5 minutes, I just heard something speak inside me. Whether you're a believer or not, I am. So this is what I can relate it to. God spoke to me and said, hey man, it's just not time yet for that. Like, I get it, you put your best foot forward, you're capable of doing it. It's just not time yet. And I know you want it to be time, and I was at that point in my career too. Really needed something to like just regenerate, get some new energy going, to get new momentum going. And so it took a lot out of me personally, but something inside of me just said, keep going, reach deep down inside yourself, get up the next morning, take in this moment now, what you're feeling, embrace it. But when you get up tomorrow, go harder. Go harder. And don't worry about like what's gonna happen, what's coming, because it's coming. If you just continue to really believe. And the thing about it is, it's easy for people to say that when they come out on the other side and they have a little story. Like, you going through it, you don't want to hear that, right? But I can honestly tell you, like just speaking from personal experience, when it just gets like that, just really bear down. And like if that fire is burning inside of you and it's telling you, you know what it is, because it speaks to your spirit. And if it's telling you, nah, keep going. Keep going. Just get back up and just keep rocking, because eventually, again, the universe is gonna respond to that. God will respond to that. If you believe in that. I'm not trying to tell people what to believe. I'm not trying to offend anyone here. I'm just speaking personally from my perspective. But whatever it is, that fire inside of you, you really just embrace that and keep going and say, man, I'm gonna make it happen. It will. And that's really like what I see with most entrepreneurs, like even good friends of mine like Puff and Jay. I mean, these guys got fire inside of them. Like, it's not just like how smart they are, like their marketing skills, ability. I mean, these guys wake up every day like, oh, what's next week? Like, and they in $100 million deal with the folded the day prior. But they're getting up that next morning like, yo, I got this meeting with Bezos, and we gonna get it rocked. This is Puff, and we gonna get it rocked. Ain't nobody gonna stop it. And he's really like that. So I can honestly tell you guys, like, it's not just cliche terms that we throwing out there and nice things to say. These are things that you can really apply to your game plan and you can win. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep going on.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to share this story because I find it so funny. I appreciate you guys for share. So I love this question about failures because we had a really funny example of this today. So I said I'm from Illinois, so I flew down here. I'm really excited about this. You know, my team and everybody at home knows that I was going to come down and see Shanique and everything. And so we had breakout sessions this morning, right? So as I was hanging out in there, I realized, oh wait, it's 10 o'clock, and it's 10:02, it's 10:03. And nobody came to my breakout session this morning at 10 a.m. And so this gentleman over here, he stopped in at like 10 minutes, he was like, is there no one in here? And I was like, it's fine. And he was like, I don't know why people. It's fine. And so I think that was everybody who, as we were talking like the story, you know, we're like, there's a reason for it, there's a reason for it. But at the end of the day, it's okay. Like, there's gonna be those things that happen. And I think that the more you can find your sense of humor in it and find that like, we're all humans and the world just operates certain ways and things just come together and don't sometimes. And don't always reflect on that as a personal thing or something that you did wrong, or let it build an insecurity or something like that. You can just chalk it up to, well, that one didn't work, we're gonna go to the next one. And so that's how I always try to approach it. I have many like really big failures that I could sit up here and opine about, but I always try to just add in humor to it. It really is okay.
I'm a huge advocate for mental health. Speak about it all the time, and so therapy, counseling, life coach, somebody to help you stay grounded. It has been one of my lifelines, and sometimes when we're going through challenges, if it's multiple challenges, it could cause certain distressors. And so I'm a huge advocate for taking care of your mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, because sometimes you can find yourself pushing and you hit a wall and think you push through the wall, and that may be a time to get some support and just take care of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no shame in that.
I wanted to add this quickly. Humor, definitely. I was gonna say that. And the other thought process I live by is nothing's ever promised. So I accept that, I adopt that, and when it doesn't happen for me, I accept it, I laugh about it as much as possible. Thank God I have some goofy friends that pull me through, and then I get back up like Jason was saying, and it's like, you know what, today, that wasn't for me, I have to attack the next thing with all this ferocity and try it because that wasn't for me. I think one of the best things that happened to me in my childhood was having to audition. And that's the best lesson. You get rejected every day. You get told you're not right, you're too tall, you're too smart. You go in, the actual description could be exactly you. And you go in and audition for it and they say you're not black enough, you're not this enough. And you're like, what are you talking about? But going through that as a dancer and an actor when I was young helped me accept that, you know what, it's not gonna be the last thing. This wasn't for me, something else is gonna come because another part did come, another audition did come. And I don't know, it just helped me balance life and say, you know what, it's okay. I didn't like it, and sometimes it hurts. I'm not gonna act like I just shake everything off, but it works. So one time I called my godson, I put him in, it wasn't John Lionel, it was one of the shows, it was a reality show, kind of like John Lionel. And brought him in, and I had pulled him in and got all the cast members together. And then when MTV came down, they were like, all right, JaBarr, thank you for everything. We don't want you to be in it anymore. We're gonna make it seem like, you know, Jack picked him up in the airport and he's gonna be the face. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what's wrong with you? But it like tore me up. But at the same time, I realized, you know what? I love him. I wanted him to get this exposure. It's not for me. I'll get something else. So it's hard, but you know, humor and nothing's ever promised. Because I thought that was a short thing.
I know we're over time. So.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, not you. No, so, but I just want to thank this amazing panel for coming.